What's up, guys? This is Forsaken Memories 45, shorthand Forsaken M, and normally it comes to presentations for what Nintendo might have in store for us. Usually I record the day of the presentation and only an hour or so beforehand, giving you all my thoughts on what I think will be in the presentation, and then combining that in with my actual reaction. But unfortunately, I'm going to be away from my computer on vacation for the next coming days, so I'm not able to do that. Really never uploaded any of those videos anyway, so deciding to do something new and to just make just the predictions portion of the video and drop that beforehand. At the time that I started writing down what I think might be a Nintendo Direct or might not be, Nintendo hadn't made any sort of announcements yet, but I was already convinced we would see something. It's consistent that they do it every year, usually in June, and all the other companies like Sony and Microsoft have already gone ahead and given us something. Now we have a 20-some minute direct for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and that automatically confirms we are getting some sort of Nintendo news. And when you combine that with a lot of the hearsay and rumors, with various levels of credibility circulating around, and the position that Nintendo really is in, and how long the Switch has been out, and announcements they've already made, these are my thoughts on what I think could be showing up this month. Before anything else, I just wanted to talk about the Xenoblade Direct. I don't think we should be worried that this is going to be the only Direct. It wouldn't make a lot of sense for Nintendo to only do a Direct for one game that comes out next month and not announce anything new to fill out the rest of the year, possibly into next year. What I think is happening, and this was rumored late spring-ish, what I think is happening is Nintendo is going to actually have multiple presentations, maybe 2, 3, maybe even 4, and they could go into July as well. But I do think we're still going to get a general, official Nintendo Direct that's going to have multiple new announcements in it. That would line up with the hearsay I've come across from lots of different sources just existing on the internet and browsing it. And there are a lot of them have some credibility, and yet nothing has come from them yet. When you consider that due to delays due to the Great Maskening, and that the Switch has reached that juicy between 5 and 6 year period where Nintendo really likes to start working on or releasing already some form of new home console, it would make sense that they might be dumping a lot of new titles on us all at once to go ahead and play catch up, as it were. With that out of the way, I would be really surprised if we saw anything major related to Pokemon. The Pokemon Company has kind of been doing their own thing for a number of years now. At best, for a general direct, I think we would see an old trailer on Scarlet Violet, and possibly with a voiceover talking about features we've already seen. Maybe a new Pokemon reveal or two, but I really think that's pushing it. If you really want more news, I think you're going to be waiting until early July for the Pokemon Company to do their own presentation like they have been. That, I think you'll see a new big update that reveals a lot of things for Scarlet Violet, as well as, maybe a new mobile title or some events for existing mobile titles, more selectable characters for Unite, and maybe some new merch or a new show to watch. As well as possibly a brand new Pokemon reveal, a Pokemon game reveal, and of course, as always, it'll be a coin toss. It'll either be something that people really are excited for, like Legends Arceus, or it's going to be something that nobody cares about and literally sleeps on, like Pokemon Sleep. As for things that have already been announced, I think Splatoon 3 and Bayo 3 could show up in a general direct if they don't get their own dedicated directs. And I think Strikers and Three Hopes could show up as just small little ads to remind us that the games are out and to buy them. Maybe with some small updates coming to Strikers. Hopefully Nintendo can, talk about Advance Wars again and finally give us a solid release date instead of just kind of holding that back. But it really feels like they're just gonna just drop it out of the blue, quiet and with a whimper, which is really gonna hurt their sales. I think that is a little bit silly and lacking business sense, focusing on, you know, an audience outside of the one you should be catering to. But we're already here, so oh well. Hopefully, you Advance Wars fans really put in the money that maybe, you know, will show to Nintendo that they can afford to make a new game. Last year here on the list for unreleased but known titles, I think we'll get something for Breath of the Wild 2, either here or in the fall. And that's because even though it's coming out next year now and it's been delayed, it's been so long where we got basically nothing that they have to do something to give fans something to chew on to, like, take them to 2023. Nintendo, you gotta give us something more solid on the game to keep people engaged. It'd be cool if Forgotten Land got some sort of DLC or an update. It's possible considering Star Allies got content after launch for a period of time. I'm not sure if they will, if they're going to just want to move on to the next Kirby thing or the next project in general. We'll see. I think it's kind of a easy shot to call that we may get the next wave of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe maps getting ported over from Tour and from various other games. And it's a good possibility that Mario Party Superstars is going to get some new maps. Probably a good chance that we'll get a new sport added to Switch Sports as well. That's about all I can think of for games that have already been announced. I'm not going to make any predictions for any indies or AA titles, because, or, you know, any other ports either, or any comments on what might show up in a sizzle reel. They're going to be in every general Nintendo Direct, and I don't think people really care about, in terms of speculation on what might show up there. There's always going to be one or two things that stand out that get people excited within ports or indies, so something in there will show up that'll be good. However, I really do think that Nintendo is holding back up until, you know, now they're going to release a number of new first parties that could happen, and the biggest one with the most discussion right now is a new DK game. I have my qualms. I just have, like, this fear for some reason. Something in the back of my head says that we, like, a monkey's paw situation where we're going to get a new DK game, but there's going to be, some big issue with it. And I think I just still have PTSD or something with the idea that a 3D DK, the last one we got, was not good. And that kind of just is stuck in there. So the idea that we could get a new 3D DK, just kind of like, I have worries about that. But it'll probably be fine if it does get announced. Another thing is that Nintendo is really short on RPGs that aren't Xenoblade, and I think they're wanting to make some sort of dent in that. Xenoblade has been super successful, but other than that, RPGs specifically under Nintendo's banner, the last one we really got was Paper Mario Origami King, and it wasn't really that much of an RPG, and it didn't quite deliver for a sizable portion of the fan base, probably the majority. I think this would be the perfect time to go in with what the fans have been asking for and hit us up with a new Golden Sun or maybe a remake. That would be the perfect time for that. This would also be a really good time to just go in on a Mother remake, like a remake of Mother 1 maybe, or, you know, finally releasing the Holy Grail as the angels descend from the heavens and you hear trumpets, and Mother 3 finally gets a North American localization. People would lose their absolute, like, blow their gourds on that one. There have been, like, some possible leaks, and if they are leaks, these are pretty sizable leaks, if they're real, for a new Fire Emblem game. From what I've seen, it looks pretty substantial. but one thing we've learned as a Nintendo fan and as a subsidiary, a subclass of that, Smash fan, is that people will do whatever it takes to make fake leaks look real and look really good. So who knows? But I will say it does feel like it's the right time for a new Fire Emblem title. I know a lot of fans are kind of burnt out, and Byleth getting into Smash at the time that they did not help with that, like, at all. But if we're going to be realistic and honest with ourselves, it's been a while since Three Houses. It's about time. Of course, I love, as a Super Mario RPG fan, I love entertaining the idea that Nintendo could finally come back to its roots and maybe even work with Square or another company to really truly do a new or a remake or the original Super Mario RPG. I would love that as well. But even just a new actual RPG in the Mario universe would be fantastic. It's something that is part of their older golden years, that they had the original Super Mario RPG, which I love and care about very deeply, and then you move on to the first two Paper Mario games that were like really successful, known as the best by the majority of the fan base, and then the first couple of Mario and Luigi's, in fact maybe all of them actually, I think they were all pretty much liked, and it was just the remakes of them that didn't do so well. Outside of that, they could announce another Mario Sports title. That could happen. We could get more news on the Mario movie in a direct. There's been a lot of rumble that even though we're not getting the sequel to Breath of the Wild in 2022, we're probably going to get either some re-releases of HD versions of games from the Zelda series, like re-releasing Wind Waker HD on Switch or Twilight Princess HD, and we already got Skyward Sword HD, so that would make sense. There's also been some rumor mills that we might be getting a Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time and or Majora's Mask, like full-on remake, not a remaster or re-release of a remaster, but a full-on remake with, you know, today's graphical fidelity, which would be amazing. I would be 100% down with that. As a very, very new kind of baby Zelda fan, I think that would be awesome and would be a huge announcement. There could be more like another Luigi's Mansion, or, you know, like maybe a remaster or remake of the original Luigi's Mansion would be really cool. Outside of that, I really can't think of anything else. Obviously, there's always the talk of Smash or titles that, you know, Nintendo seems to have kind of forgotten about more than most, like F-Zero or new Star Fox. Obviously, these are always possible. Maybe, you know, Metroid Prime 4 is actually gonna have gameplay. Who knows? Just about anything can happen. One thing I do want to talk about really quickly about Smash, however, is that a lot of people are probably going to think that there's no chance for it to happen. And while I will say that I think it's lesser for it to happen, I'm not going to say it's impossible. And the reason is because as someone who's played fighting games and kept up to date with them for a significant period of time, especially in the modern era, where you get season pass after surprise DLC, a lot of fighting games, they don't always announce a new season pass after the last one has ended. There will be periods of time between 3 to 6 months, maybe longer, depending on the studio and how successful the game is, where there will be huge gaps in time before they announce that there's going to be any DLC, which can lead people to believe that there will be no more DLC. A really good recent example of that is Dragon Ball FighterZ, and we just recently got the actual more human-looking version of Android 21, who, granted, takes a lot from, in terms of a moveset, from the Android 21 we already have in the game, but she still plays differently, much differently enough to be considered her own character. And, you know, we all thought the game was dead and it hadn't gotten new content like that in a long time. So, never count out a game where it's designed where the thing that attracts people the most is the individual characters with a roster. Because it is entirely possible that something could be worked on in the shadows, and we just don't know about it yet. Other than that, there's nothing particularly that's popping into my mind right now. It is interesting to think that Nintendo could just have a massive backlog of things to announce, including, potentially entries and IPs that we have not seen in a long time, because now would be the time with the Switch to make that happen. I guess the last thing that I can think of is, as I mentioned earlier in this video, the new console. We are in that sweet spot where it is now 3 months past, or 3 months into 5 years, and if the history of Nintendo with home console specifically tends to be a 5 to 6 year window where they will, and more often 5 than 6, where they will then bring out the new console, thereby mostly invalidating the previous one. And we are hitting that sweet spot. It is entirely possible that a new console could be announced at an E3 Direct, or in an E3 Direct. And, it feels like it might be just a smidge too early, but it also feels like it might be just the right time just to maybe reveal it and, not give too many details. Who knows? We'll see shortly enough, I'm sure. However, I am convinced, based on a lot of the things that have come up, both from statements and the lack thereof of statements of people within Nintendo Japan up top, as well as events with other companies that you can, if you do some digging, you can find, suggests that there has been something in the works for a while, like a couple years or so maybe, and I feel like it's closer than it's not. But whether this month or this summer is the time for that, who's to say? I think that pretty much covers everything that I wanted to talk about. So I'll just let you guys, leave you guys with that, and we will see what goes on in the coming week. People are talking about next week, something like the 27th through the 29th, somewhere in there, to possibly look for a direct. But they were also saying something for the beginning of the month and for last week. So, who really knows? We don't. Nintendo does. And all we can do is really hope. So until then, this is For Sake of Memories 45. Thank you guys for listening. And I'll see you guys on the flip side.